Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another EA Astrology Zoom panel. Today, we're joined by Kara McGillicuddy, Kara Milloy-Brammel, Ryan Evans, Marty Dixon, and Jordyn Smith, Sue Hillyard, and myself, Robin Grabfelder. And we're going to just have a discussion today about current events and the planetary alignments currently happening and about to happen. So, Tara, would you like to start?
Sure. Am I starting? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today with all of you wonderful people. And it's just an honor to be able to collaborate with you all. I think I want to start by saying that we're in such a powerful time right now with Neptune and Saturn in Aries and Uranus entering Gemini. I mean, none of us have ever lived through this in this lifetime before. And so I think we all know and feel probably more than ever before that things need to change. And that always begins with changing ourselves so we can change our outer life. And then that trickles out into the collective and changes can happen. But I think we know we're getting glimpses of what needs to change, but we're still a lot of us operating out of old wounds rather than new wisdom. And I think that's the big thing here is to key in on everything that we're doing. Are we acting out of wounds or wisdom? And right now is the time where we really can step into that place of accessing wisdom like never before and changing our ways. So when I say wounds, I'm really talking about these deeper biological responses that are lodged in our nervous system that maybe up until now we've been too afraid to face. But we really have to face the source of the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the anger, any of the negative personality manifestations that come out because it's time to rewire these things so we can actually change and we can release what's holding us back and keeping us stuck and repeating all the same patterns over and over again. Now is the time where with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, like we really have an opportunity to restructure ourselves, to really change our identity. It's no longer an accident. It's in our hands. It's a choice. Who do we want to be? Who do we want to become? And so we're realizing that, we have to realize that everything in our life is just a mirror of our inner conflicts and our distortions. And so everything that we see is just reflecting back to us what's going on the inside. It's just a reflection. Everything on the outside is a reflection of our inner nature. So it's time to really change our inner nature. And we have an opportunity right now. So with Neptune and Saturn conjunct, they're not exact right now, but they're within a 1 degree orb. They're close enough. Their energies are really blending. And the last time they were conjunct was in 1703, I think. So none of us have experienced this before in this lifetime. And it's really providing an opportunity for us to work on restructuring the self and doing so by recognizing, we're far more than the physical human that we see ourselves as. I mean, we're so much more than this material world. And we get so caught up in our ego and, the small things of life, but it's really time to recognize that we're spiritual beings and we have the opportunity to get in touch with that right now because Neptune just wants to dissolve everything it touches. So it wants to dissolve the ego. It wants to dissolve all of the limits of time and space and is constantly whispering to us, you're more than your body, you're more than this moment. And then we've got Saturn that's there reminding us, but you're in a physical body, you're limited, your time is running out, your time is finite. But that also helps us to recognize that every single choice we make in every single moment really matters. I mean, we have the ability to make choices in our day-to-day life that change the future, that change who we're becoming. So there's this idea that we're becoming more than this fixed idea of who we are. We're becoming fluid expressions of something far greater than what we've been. And so, really, it's like the soul and the body have an opportunity to meet now and become something more than we've been. And we all have a chance to tap into this. This energy is inviting us right now, all of us, to step into this. And so then, Uranus recently moved into Gemini on July 7th. And Uranus in Gemini, obviously, Uranus is the planet of liberation, and deconditioning. And it's really electrifying our mental energy body, our logical minds. And it's urging us to rethink pretty much everything we've thought up until now. So that includes how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive life, how we engage with all of the inherited beliefs and the structures upon which we've built our life up until now, which is Saturn. So all of this might have once been useful, but it's not anymore. It has to go. It's become limitations. And so it no longer reflects who we're becoming. And we have this urge, again, right now, we probably all feel this, I know I do, that I have to change certain things about myself to change my life and get on track with the long-term vision I have for my life. So it's all about really understanding your long-term vision. This isn't temporary, this is all about the long term. So Uranus is going to be sextiling. I don't know if we want to pull up that chart really fast.
While you're doing that, I just want to clarify one little thing that
Yeah,
Saturn and Neptune have been together previously,
yes.
but what you're talking about is they haven't been in Aries together
In
since
Aries, yes.
1700s. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Hmm. And this time it's like very close to the Aries point. I mean, the world point
It
is,
will be on the World Point. Yeah.
yeah, it's within
I think in April,
within
right?
minutes.
February.
So with Uranus sextiling Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So this is going to be happening on August 11th and August 29th. I think it'll be conjunct. So this is obviously, it's just bringing about a profound turning point, I think, for all of us on our personal evolution, because it's asking us to become conscious participants in our own transformation. So that means we have a choice, we can transform. We don't have to stay the way that we've been. And we can start awakening to this new cycle of growth. There's this opportunity, this doorway opening that's saying, let's liberate, let's get out of the old ways and start anew. So I think there could be, especially with this sextile, some, um, old mental patterns, some psychological trauma that might rise to the surface to be sorted out and finally seen for the first time, possibly ever. But this isn't to destabilize us. This is to get us to finally liberate ourselves and recognize what's been going on, what's been keeping us mentally trapped. And so we can move forward finally with clarity and direction. And so it's kind of like a recalibration of the mind, because Uranus wants to liberate the mind from everything it thinks it is, really. And so it also is trying to get us to shift from past oriented thinking to future oriented awareness, so that we're more thinking about our future, what we need to create in the present to ensure a different outcome in the future, rather than being caught up in the nostalgia of the past and the pain of the past. So the future, it can't be born based on conditioned patterns, based on Saturn. So it has to come from Uranus. It's pushing us to evolve and release everything that's restricting us so that we can step into the form that reflects our long-term vision, our long-term goals. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. I just think we really have a powerful opportunity in August to get in touch with what we need to release so we can free ourselves and move forward in a lighter, less heavy, and stuck way of being.
This might be a good time for me to share what I was going to share, because it kind of segues into this. But it's interesting that you use the word recalibration, because I actually, when I did a Substack post on Uranus and Gemini, and that's exactly what I called it, recalibration of the mind or of the mental space, something along those lines. But I used the word recalibration, which I thought was great.
I also have something I want to show after you do, Kara, that actually pertains to what Tara was talking about, but it's actually occurring right now, this week. So,
Yeah, and so we're talking about the Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus being in this sextile. So it's significant for me. So this is my chart with the current transits. So Uranus is sitting on my south node right now. I'm in my first pass of my Chiron return as it goes retrograde and then comes forward again. And then the Saturn Neptune is really close to my Mars. So I'm really feeling all of the things that you were just talking about. It's very present for me right now. And talking about that deconditioning piece, when we think about the South Node and it being our conditioning and what we're familiar with and the things that created, our perspectives, that is absolutely what has been very present for me in even just the last couple of weeks. And, we talk about Uranus being sometimes shocking. Sometimes it is disturbing to be destabilized, but it's meant to break those things apart, to reconfigure them, right? In the way that is going to move us forward. So something just recently that came up, I was talking to a family member about a situation, and I was describing how I was feeling, and might be considered like negative feelings. I call them uncomfortable feelings because they're just not ones that we like to sit in. And the response was, well, you shouldn't feel that way. And I know that she was just trying to be encouraging and, like, don't feel that way, it's going to get better kind of thing. But that is exactly the insight that I feel like Uranus brought to me in that moment, was the aha realization of that was the conditioning that I grew up in, that, we shouldn't feel a certain way, or we don't need to feel our feelings. And I have a Capricorn moon, if you can see it up there. So I already have a hard time feeling my emotions anyway. So it just brought to mind, this is the thing that I'm trying to deconstruct. This is the thing that is coming to me. All of the opinions and words that come at me from other people that I have created my identity around is now being broken apart. And the other thing about the Saturn Neptune in my 12th house with my Mars, which is also opposing my Pluto, because I have a Mars Pluto opposition natally. But for me, this has been, and I'm going to see if I can say this gently. I came out of a very strict religious, not necessarily my upbringing, but in my teenage years and my early adulthood, I was very big in a particular religious movement. And I realize now how much of it was actually spiritual abuse. And so this Neptune Saturn with my Mars is helping me to reconfigure and move past the disillusionment that I've had, that, separated myself from it, and to create a new structure around what faith means to me, what, that connection to oneness means to me. I think those are all, words that we would use when we're talking about those archetypes. And then obviously my Chiron return in my first house, just the idea of identity and how are we bringing how are we using this opportunity to recreate ourselves in a way? So thank you for listening. That's what I wanted to share about that.
Thank you for being vulnerable, Kara. I love that. Like whenever people, that's my style. I'm like, because it opens people up to feel like they're not alone, that they can share. And I definitely think that that is a necessity with the world right now. Um, I love what both of you ladies shared. I find it fascinating, and I'll bring the chart up in just a second, but I want to say something here is that Neptune Saturn conjunction retrograde in Aries is ruled by Mars and Virgo right now, which is in a new phase to the lunar south node. So it's really speaking to right now, we're revisiting old emotional dynamics, dealing with our conditioning, where we felt victimized and possibly have been a victim, and what that has done to the structure of our consciousness, and then a need for us to make a new choice, Mars, to act on the desire to really improve upon these areas, especially within our mental constructs. And that's something that you can really see too with that Uranus and Gemini sextile to that. And it's also trine Pluto, it's the ruler of Pluto. So there's this clarifying aspect with that sextile and that trine that really pinpoints these areas of our life that we're really needing to adjust and adapt and improve and most importantly heal. So a lot can be coming up for people right now. And the other thing that's really fascinating is that we're talking about Neptune. Neptune's planetary nodes, and this is what I'll show you everyone in a minute. You know, the south node and the north node for Neptune is the same for everyone. It's their, south node is in Aquarius, north node is in Leo. And this is really speaking to the sense of community that all of us once felt whenever it was aligned with what was natural, right? Before the distortions happened, and then the inception of the patriarchy, and how this created an immense amount of trauma, and how we are meant to liberate from it. And it's ruled by Uranus and Gemini right now, with Pluto in Aquarius. And it's really speaking to the liberation of the mind. And then you've got the north node of Neptune and Leo, which everyone should look at where their sun is in their chart. And it really speaks to, how we're giving creative purpose and meaning, especially around our healing, around these dynamics. And the fascinating thing is when we pull all of this in right now, um, it goes back to what Tara was saying, when we do our part, it helps the collective conscious, right? Neptune, Pisces. And it's about healing and understanding where we have learned, Gemini, about beliefs and whether or not they're rooted in actual reality, or if they are just rooted in an ideal or a fantasy that's actually keeping us separate from living this experience in a more compassionate and loving way in which that we're meant to. And then we have what I like to call, you know, Uranus's baby brother, which is Mercury in Leo right now. And right now, I'll share this.
Retrograde.
Yes, but also Mercury yesterday, the day before today, has been conjunct the north node of Neptune, ruled by this sun. And so it's Mercury's also ruling Mars and the lunar south node, which Mars is the ruler of, all of the Aries energy that's going on. And Mercury is also the ruler of that, Uranus, Sedna, and Venus. And So there's this intensification around, and I'll stop this, really going back and reviewing and revisiting these core wounds of whatever is coming up so we can decondition. And then it takes um, a lot of self-consistency of actually applying that wisdom, right? Wisdom is, what is that if it's not applied to the here and now? And that is part of Mars on that lunar south node in a new phase, giving us this opportunity with all these retrogrades to revisit these past emotional dynamics, lunar south node, and then to make those choices to do something different, right? As a way to really purge those old dynamics once and for all. Because that is Virgo. I love this sign because it is a bit annoying because shit comes up all the time and you're like, I thought I dealt with this, and it is so repetitious. And it's like, just when I thought I was done with that, I'm not. And it's because Virgo is so internalized, and it's getting us to really, um, you know, improve upon what information it is that we've actually taken in. And so looking at how that affects us in the daily, how we live that out in our lives, stemming with our beliefs and our values and our needs, and then how it affects our relationships, our relationship to self, our relationship with others. And the thing about Virgo, though, is once it really gets to the bottom of something, because there's the natural sextile between Scorpio, it literally is done with. That's why it's so damn annoying for so long. It's like it keeps coming up because it's really wanting to purge it. It's like, no, the soul is like, there needs to be self-consistency. There needs to be the humility to keep looking within, to keep understanding what is this that's going on here. And then once it is done, it's done. You'll never experience it in that way, not in this lifetime and not the next one or the one after that or the one after that. And that is like the beauty of Virgo. Although it's so damn annoying speaking from someone who has a lot of Virgo signatures in her chart. But I just wanted to point out that even you guys are talking about this. This is really this Mercury retrograde right now, conjunct that north node of Neptune, is really, really getting us to go within. And it's saying there's some creative purpose here around our thinking and getting back to what is natural and leaving the past in the past, that are the choices and the decisions that keep us in this, straight jacket, while yet taking from the past the wisdom that was garnered, that we've improved upon, and then applying it to the here and now. So I just wanted to emphasize this because I thought it was really cool, and you guys were talking about this. So that's my spiel.
Awesome.
I appreciate that you brought up the Virgo archetype and that you appreciate it as a sixth house Pluto.
I'm a sixth house Pluto too. So
Me
yeah.
too, and my moon's there, and then I have a south node in Virgo. So yeah.
Me too.
There's
Yeah,
a
I
Me
whole
and
have
the
new
the
South Node in
appreciation for
Virgo.
it when you experience it
I
in a
have,
new way.
I have the South Node and the Moon in sixth house, and then I'm a double Sun and Jupiter in Virgo. So
So we got some
Well,
Virgo here.
and here's the thing about Virgo, and I've said this before, and I'll say it every single time, is it is the archetype of the Virgin. And what it's teaching us, and it's not the bastardization of that word, it's the true meaning, which Virgo, the Virgin, a virgin in general, is someone who already knows that they're whole into themselves, period. And we can see how that's been distorted, right? And so it's really about trying to master, through deconditioning the mind, understanding that beliefs that keep us from understanding that about ourselves are not rooted in actual reality. It's the actual truth is that we are already whole unto ourselves, each one of us. So this is part of that process of deconditioning right now.
I guess watching the world fall apart in front of our eyes is helping us to open them to see that.
Well, that's actually, can I jump in right there?
Absolutely.
And this and ties what you just said in with the Virgo archetype. And Jordyn, thank you for that. That was profound and uh, ties in nicely to what Tara was saying. Um, when we consider like the current conversation between Pluto and Uranus, which I'm sure we'll cover more of in these halls here. Um, I like to always go back, to consider phase relationship, what was happening at the conjunction. And if we go back to the conjunction of Pluto and Uranus back in what, 64, 5, 6, 7, 8, uh, something like that. What was the intention? Well, it was Virgo, and the intention was, revolutionary change and Pluto, deep healing of all of our ancient unconscious woundedness. That's a tall order. And Virgo is here as a sixth house sun, and Virgo I see. But I do believe and have seen it play over and over again that the highest expression of Virgo is the mastery of this 3D realm in terms of the functionality and the methodology and the process and the knowing how to do something right and knowing how to do something sustainably. So if we go back to our intentions of the 60s, peace, love, rock and roll, man, th those sustainable ideals, those living in harmony and concert with the wisdom and intelligence of nature, and the virgin, the goddess, when we understand that that's the correct methodology of whatever spiritual being, we might be, but the integration of that into this realm in a way that works. Virgo knows how to do that. And so here we are in the process as a species trying to figure out how to make it work. And that's in the context of some megalomaniacs. And that's also in the context of some revolutionary insight and technology that's occurring. And so I just wanted to throw out, you were talking about Virgo, that's kind of what this is all about, this whole Pluto Uranus cycle. And if we consider, just to throw out phase relationship between everybody else, I mean, that they had their roots in Capricorn. And so they wanted something earth, something that worked too, something that was practical and functional and effective. So it sounds like to me, we're all just trying to figure out how to freaking, be humans and live on this planet in a sustainable way. And a lot of those crises are up in our face right now. So just wanted to throw that out. Discuss.
Agreed. I also feel like, with the Virgo dynamic and the crises that are happening globally, when we're thinking about the collective conscious and how that is exactly what Tara was talking about, it is just a mirror of what is going on internally. We all have some type of sadomasochistic conditioning because that is rooted everywhere in the world right now. Um, and so the crises are unfortunately the ways in which the collective consciousness, the mass, is choosing to learn and accelerate the evolution right now, is through the crisis. And I think that it's interesting when there's that acceleration that's happening, which is definitely happening right now with Pluto and Aquarius, with Uranus and Gemini, funneled into this dynamic, part of the crisis is the divisiveness, right? And we can see this playing out in the world, the delusional beliefs of this, that, or the other, and how it's wanting to really break free. There's that, it's really reflecting the deconditioning. That's why there's the divisiveness too. It's like people are trying um, to understand themselves, and it's teaching people about these Piscean North Node lessons in empathy and forgiveness and compassion and love. Um, and yet we're also seeing, I would say, this dynamic of the divisiveness becoming more pronounced because the anger that people are feeling, and then they're not realizing that they're actually doing the same thing that they got mad about in the first place, right? Like I have so many friends that I love dearly, but what I'm seeing is the people who supported Trump, right? They will post things and they'll be like, the people who supported Trump who are now coming to terms with that was not, this is affecting me, having a direct result. It's directly impacting them. And then I'm seeing these people who speak up for great causes, ableism and LGBTQ plus rights and, all of the things. But yet, when someone is like, oh, I messed up. This is now directly affecting me. Those same people who were pissed off about people voting for this are now like blasting them and shaming them. And, I don't care if you changed your mind and this and that. That is Uranus and Gemini. It's creating even more divisiveness. And the call with all of this, with the North Node and Pisces, is to make new choices around compassion and love. Here's the thing, Neptune and Saturn conjunct, we all have had to learn the hard way through a direct experience. We've all judged people for different things, and then guess what? And Kara, I'm pretty sure you've really had this. You've got Mars Pluto opposition. I've got Moon Mars opposition. Same houses, same signs, by the way. That's that boomerang effect. The moment I judge someone, guess what? I find myself in that same situation, and I'm having the direct experience of now I have a different outlook on this, right? And so, and it's the disillusioning experience of realizing to our horror that the choice that was made is actually affecting not just other people, but me too. And unfortunately, that is how humans are hardwired in their consciousness right now. It takes that direct experience. And so, what I want to say is there's really this call to have the compassion. If someone is reflecting Saturn and they are taking accountability and they are seeing the impact of their choices, even if it took it directly affecting them, guess what? We've all been duped. We've all messed up and we've all had to experience that. And so we need to bring the compassion, and it doesn't mean, that you have to agree, but it's about building a sense of community that it's okay. We all make mistakes. It's about getting up and taking accountability and then just trying again or doing something different. That's the Virgo Pisces, mixed with this Neptune and Saturn conjunction. And so I wanted to put that out there because I see so much of this, I don't care if you're seeing it now. Yeah, it only directly affects you. And it's like, isn't that how this works though? For most humans, is it takes that direct experience. So yeah, I could go
I'm
on
always
and
just
on. It's
I'm
kind
always
of a
just glad that
soapbox
they
for me.
finally see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the celebration, right? We're allowed to
Yeah, I'm just
celebrate that
happy,
they
wow,
have
you
come to the
got it.
realization. Yeah, and support them,
Right,
yeah, rather than, be
exactly.
harsh. I also wanted to go back. Thank you for that, Jordyn. That was great. Um, when we were talking about phasal relationships, talking about the conjunction of Pluto Neptune or Pluto Uranus in Virgo, so we're now at the first quarter trine, which is Leo energy, right? So it's that, how am I validating myself? All of this being on stage and putting myself out there and wanting to receive accolades or wanting to receive just validation that I exist from other people. Part of that liberation is to learn how then to validate those things for ourselves and not seek it from external sources. I just wanted to add
Yeah.
that.
No, that's so on par for Mercury retrograde conjunct the north node of Neptune right now. It's like having, I feel like that is one of those wounds that a lot of people have, is this Leonian wound. I have Leo on my IC, by the way, totally experienced this. I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not understood for who I am. And we're hardwired to seek out our authority through, the external, when really this is about cultivating that sense of inner authority and utilizing Leo in a way that gives that purpose and that meaning for each one of us by having dignity and cultivating love from within. I matter to me, and that's good enough. Period. I don't need everybody to see me. And it teaches one about how we are all unique and individualistic. And some people, because of how the world is structured, they appear to be outshining other people, but that's not true. So, yeah.
Isn't that, that's also our introduction to Aquarius through Pluto entering Aquarius.
Yes.
That's going to be the Aquarian age for a
which is
long
the
time.
opposite Leo.
Yeah, right.
That brings up something, just I'll try to be quick. When we're talking about the Neptune and Aries, Neptune, Saturn, and Aries, one of the feelings there, one of the message that I feel like I've gotten intuitively over, with Neptune and Aries, this 14-year cycle, is helping to break down a lot of the toxic masculine in all of us, being in Aries. And so then I think about the age of Aries. You mentioned the age of Aquarius. So I think a lot of the patriarchy and the things that we're fighting now, or the things that we're realizing need to be changed now, still have us in that age of Aries thinking, the power over, power under dynamics, or, take what is mine kind of thing. And the age of Pisces was supposed to be us coming back into the realization that we're all one. And, we're still struggling with that. So it's just a couple thoughts. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but.
Well, this conjunction of Neptune and Saturn on the Aries point is really going to bring that up, isn't it? And bring us to a point of resolving that.
Could we look at Jordyn's chart again, the one that she had on up the current chart?
Yeah, the one with Mercury retrograde conjunct the north node of Neptune. Yeah. Here you go, Marty.
Okay, can you, okay, it's kind of small, but I can see it. That's okay. So Mercury retrograde is conjunct what, Jordyn, one more time?
North node of Neptune.
Oh, the north node of Neptune in 11 degrees of Leo. Interesting. Fantastic. Wow. That is amazing. What's coming to light now, the Hopi people say we're approaching the fifth world. Are you all familiar with that? They say we've been through 4 worlds. We're at the end of the 4th world now. We're in the 5th cycle of the 4th world, which is the animal kingdom. And they said we're drifting toward, we're on the cusp of the human, I guess you would call it the human kingdom. And that's when humans are supposed to wake up and remember their origins and their spiritual origins, and when they were co-creators with all of creation and all of the spirit gods and all of the animals and plants and trees, and we were part of everything. So we're supposed to regain total recall and have very crystal clear consciousness and use more than the 8% of our brains that we're using right now. You use almost the full amount of our brains. But they say we will enter a heartfelt society where we don't really come from the cerebral cortex, but we come from the heart. We come in and we learn from the heart. I just came from ceremony, so I'm kind of full of all of the Native American prophecy and the heart-centeredness, and that is so true that Gemini right now would be right there on the north node of Neptune, 11 degrees Leo. Fantastic. But I wanted to thank everybody. I'm so glad I came. This is a great conversation. And I want to look at this chart and look at Uranus in Gemini, and it looks to me, I can't really see it too well, but it looks like it's at 0 degrees Gemini, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that means what relation is it then to the North Node? Is it first quarter phase to the North Node, which is 18 degrees Pisces?
Yes, it's first quarter.
Okay, that's really interesting to me because I'm kind of an old astrology dog, and I remember so much of what Jeffrey taught. And Jeffrey's the last time that Uranus was in Gemini was between 1941 and 1949. And you got to excuse me because I'm half asleep, but I do believe that Jeffrey was born in 47. And the thing that really amazes me is that he is only a month away from David Bowie, who I really did a deep dive in his chart. They're both brilliant in different ways, or in similar ways. They're both absolutely brilliant. And Jeffrey had North Node. His Uranus in Gemini was retrograde in his chart, and it was new phase to the North Node in Gemini, and that is a very high antenna. It's like, to me, it's like electroshock therapy. It's like wake up now and tell the world, and they both were quite dynamic in the world in their different ways. But if you look into Bowie's chart, he was so much more than just a performer. He was an incredible mind. Mm-hmm. And they were both visionaries. But one thing about that, because they were both first quarter, their Uranus in Gemini was new phase to the North Node in Gemini. Now, what is it? It's a well, no, it's not. Let's see. It's a Uranus in Gemini cycle where Uranus is entering Gemini again, but it's now first phase to the North Node. So to me, that means we've kind of had time to assimilate all these incredible ideals that came from the late 40s and the incredible minds. There were incredible minds. I did a list of them once, and I can't think of all the names that came out during the end of the 40s that just jogged our brains and jogged our consciousness and, gave us the most absurd thoughts, but they gelled after a while. They made sense after a while. And I remember Jeffrey teaching that when Gemini really kicks in, or when it's very strong in your chart, that it can be very shocking because things and discoveries and messages will come out of outer space. They'll come out of nowhere and they'll just shake your world and say, get up and listen. And then you'll figure it out later, much later. But what's
I'm laughing because I have a Gemini Mercury that's trying my Uranus. So, and I have a Gemini Sun. So what you just said is, yes, that's how it feels.
There you go, Kara. That's what I'm trying to talk about. I mean, I've had it happen. We've all had it happen. Like, where did that come from? I remember Jeffrey saying, he would say, for instance, you're a normal person, you have a normal life, you've got a mortgage. I remember his words so well. You have a mortgage and a family and a dog and a house and all of this stuff, and all of a sudden you get a message in your brain, go to India, you must go to India. And he says that's what Uranus is all about when it's really heightened and affected, is that it's going to tell you to go here, zig or zag, and you don't know what's going on in your brain. And he said that's because our little brain is connected to the big brain in the sky. They're like computers. And he said they're syncing, they're hooking up, and you're getting messages. And another really interesting thing about this Uranus to Gemini that just absolutely fascinates me, since it affected Jeffrey and that generation of the late 40s. I have Uranus in Cancer, but I was born a little bit later. Is that it create what Uranus and Gemini can do more than any other combination is create new dendrites, new neurons, and new synapses in the brain. And I have to look at the names. Tara was talking about, rewiring the brain and all that. And I'm going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And Jordyn was talking about it too. I'm thinking, Jeffrey said, when you have a strong Gemini and Uranus relationship, it not only jogs the brain and rewires the brain, but it not only changes the physiology of the brain, but it changes how we think. Not only what we think, like this is a new idea, this is new to me, I'm going to consider this now, I'm open-minded now, I'm trying to grasp more now and be more, just more open-minded in general, more allowing. But he said it changes how we think, like how we approach that situation, and it might teach us to go into deep meditation or to be quiet for a while, or give it a week, or give it a few days, or sleep on it. It changes how we think, which is so dramatic and so important. Not just linear, straight thinking. Oh, I've got to figure this out, or I'm in trouble. You've got to give it up and let it come back to you. It's really allowing the brain to rest and remember and dream and believe in those dreams and believe in those messages that you're getting. Have an allowance for the information that's coming in as opposed to questioning it. Just let it flow and you'll be a lot better off. So I wanted to add that. And Uranus stands for disassociation, counterpoint awareness, individuation, and liberation. And he said that will come by lightning bursts of insight. So if we're more in tune with that and more amenable to that, it's going to be less hard. And he talked a lot about that in his book, Uranus, Freedom from the Known, that these are messages coming from space and they're tuning into our brains, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's going to keep happening.
And then I love
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say real quick that I love what you said about the that we actually are changing the way we think, not just what we think, but the way we think. And I think because of the way that the world is going, all of the crises that are happening, the things that are unsustainable, it's going to take thinking in a new way to come up with solutions. We can't use the same solutions. We can't put the same Band-Aid on a problem, and we have to think in new ways. And so I think that's a benefit or something that is going to help us with all the Aquarian energy now, Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius.
And Kara, you can't think I'm crazy because you're not.
And I love what you said, Marty, about the, dendrites in the brain, because I think one of the big ways that we form these new dendrites, which basically changes the chemistry of the brain, is by following these Uranian flashes of insight. And that means oftentimes we're being led into these new experiences, this uncharted territory we've never been before, and it's scary. But if we don't do it, then we don't have the new experience to form the new perceptions, to form the new dendrites and the new neural pathways in the brain. It's all by fault. You have to go and do the thing that scares you. But Uranus, it wants to give you that electrical shock. Like, do it. Just see what happens.
And if you don't follow that, Tara, it's going to get harder.
Yeah, exactly.
You all see Dead Poet Society when the class is sitting there and Robin Williams stands up on his desk and says, "All right, everybody, come on, stand on your desk." And I think of that that scene when I think of Uranus and Gemini, and what y'all been saying here is that sometimes we just need to look at things from a completely different perspective than everything that we have ever known, that we have been taught, that we grew up with, that we have taught ourselves. And from that different perspective, we can gain new information. The shadow can happen is when we're stuck in our own myopic vision of what we think we know the way is, or the answers are, or the path is, and that Gemini thinking that it knows everything when it only has part of the information, that can be then really dangerous. And so I'm really excited for this conversation, and what it sounds like everyone's encouraging their people, their clients, and everything to do is to take those risks and take those chances, and get up off of the chair and stand up on the desk and look at the classroom from a totally different perspective and see what you find.
Yeah, Ryan, there's a lot of myopia going around, and it's all fear-based, and that explains an awful lot.
It's
I mean, I
true.
love friends that I don't understand or don't agree with. I love them so much, but I have to realize they've got to wake up for themselves. They've
Well,
got to make that decision.
this is really interesting because I just had this conversation last night with another panel of local astrologers here in beautiful southwestern Wisconsin. Uh, is uh, you know, y'all have within you Donald Trump. And we don't want to admit that, but when we can really understand the real holographic nature of the universe, and we understand the interconnectedness of all things, and we're all just these little pieces of God or goddess or consciousness remembering itself, and that ultimately we're all playing out the same story of the battle of fear and love, and how do we come into blossom and shine and sing our song. um, yeah, I think right now we have these opportunities with Uranus and Gemini to ask a lot of really great questions, and explore a lot of have a lot of curiosity. And I think if we can do that as a civilization, wow, what are some possibilities for healing this? What are some possibilities of having a conversation with someone who I like really disagree with, because I understand the holographic nature of the universe and the interconnectedness of all things, and that there's there's light. The light in me is in that other person too. And wow, oh, what could happen? And so I like to think of that as a fun way that this trine could play out.
I love that. Something that I'm thinking about as you guys talk is we haven't talked about this yet, though. That yes, we have these nodes in Virgo and Pisces, and we have Uranus and Gemini, and these are mutable signs. And so I want to say, like, this, it's about adaptability. We can pivot on a dime, especially with Uranus and Gemini. And then I think about the past times that Uranus has been in Gemini, starting with World War II and what happened after that. We had people who, this is where the civil rights movement was first started, was right after World War II. It's the inception, the birth of it. It didn't pick up speed until, you know, years later. Um, and that is a Uranian dynamic as it takes on a life of its own, right? It's like a jackhammer and it booms and there's cracks and you don't know where all the cracks are. And then it's like later on down the line, more stuff is making sense. And then if you go back the time before World War II, whenever Uranus was in Gemini, this is whenever we had, you know, the Civil War. And it's because communities came together and said, this type of thinking and these types of beliefs that are keeping people separated is not supposed to happen anymore. And they, guess what? Neptune was also in Aries, and they had this courage, this fire in them to do what was right. You know what I'm saying? That was in alignment with natural law, the mutable axis. And then the time before that, when Uranus was in Gemini, was whenever we had um, America started to become America. We had people here in Boston, right, close to where I live now, and they had a really shitty ruler, King Henry the Eighth, isn't it? Or the third, I can't remember.
Correct.
Um, and he was a jackass and he was imposing all of his beliefs and what his values were. And you had people who came together in a community and they formed their own government system because they knew that what was going on was not right. And so you had my point is with these energies, these were people who were thinking outside of the box. When I think of Uranus and Gemini, that is literally, if I could give it a word, like a classification that is very general and very just on the nose, is thinking outside of the box. And it's the thinking outside of the box that comes from on high, right? Like Neptune's south node and Aquarius, that wire that Marty was talking about, where we are co-creating and we're getting the whispers from within that are the inner Uranian drumbeat that's saying, do this or take this path. It was all of these people in these movements that came together and they were directed and they followed that. And it created, they could pivot on a dime. They adapted to the situation, right? And I think that what that did, not I think I know, is those instances when we think about these things happening, did that not accelerate the collective evolution? It changed values and points of view and a frame of reference. And I think we experience things in the micro and the macro, dealing with this right now. Um, and I think you guys were talking about fear. I think that a lot of people have a lot of fear around what is happening, which I absolutely agree. But I also want us to just keep in mind, like this is a science of observation and correlation. And when you go back in history and you really look at what happened, yes, was there trauma? Was there divisiveness? Was there this? Was there that? Yes, but then there were some people who were really badass and had the courage and they followed that direction and they did something and it ended up bringing the community together and a new vision for the collective was born from that, and that is the way I'm seeing Neptune and Aries. We're kind of in this like little, it's retrograde. It's about to go back into Pisces. We might have, collective hysteria, or I don't know, for a bit of a time. That's fascinating to look at, by the way, too, in history. Always a Neptune thing. But, this is like we're getting seeds that are planted, and the truth is prevailing. Like, if we look at what is going on, it really is. It is prevailing. And we have a lot of mutable energies, so we can pivot, we can adapt, we can do what's necessary. Um, it's just unfortunately we're doing it through crisis, right? Good old South Node and Virgo.
That's
So,
the way we usually
um,
do things.
That's
yes.
the
And
thing.
Ryan, the other thing I wanted to say to you is you're right, we all do have that in us. Um, that is Pluto eighth house stuff right there, where you are having to reconcile that we all are capable of becoming that. The victim becomes the perpetrator, the this, the that. And that's why it's important for us to heal and to humble ourselves and understand that. And I'm really glad that you touched on that. So thank you.
Totally. And on that note too, I might add a little thing I've been thinking. He's laughing regarding the Saturn Neptune conjunction, especially where it is, and the way that I perceive astrology in the universe as an organic farmer is Aries and Pisces as the interface where the seedling is emerging out of the soil. And that can be some scary stuff. And some of the things that we imagined what the other side of the soil would be might not necessarily turn out to be that. And so for a long time, and we're going to dip back into it too to get, get another deep breath of this, but we've had some illusions as to what society is. I'm going to be controversial here. What society, religion, government, economy, blah, 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 every pretty much human construct. We, maybe had some illusions as to uh, what they are and the altruism behind some of them. And so uh, Aries and things emerging into Aries is very much a coming into a reality and saying, okay, here's the facts. Now, what am I going to do about it? And so we're coming into this place, I like to call it the death of the American dream, because, okay, well, we're coming into this place of disillusionment that Dan Millman, author of The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, said is a great thing. Disillusionment, yay! It's the freeing from illusion.
Mhm.
Yay! And so if we look at it that way, wow, we're waking up from a lot of illusions that we've had about what society, religion, government, blah, 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 economy, everything is. Yay! Okay, what do we want to do about it now? And so in that Aries momentum of action, we have to come to some really hardcore realities, Saturn, and let go of some illusions, Neptune. And so the hard work, Saturn, of letting go of those illusions, Neptune takes an incredible amount of Neptune forgiveness and Saturn maturity and wisdom. And so, you know, I can talk at length on, the toxicity that percolates up in different, gender specific ways of archy, um, and how there's a deep, deep, deep need for change in this world, and healing the past. But again, and I'm almost done here. But again, right now, as things Saturn and Neptune come into Aries more fully, and Uranus there in Gemini offering us these new insights and new ideas, I think that there are ways that we need to move forward and innovate, not not heal the past, not, oh, forget the past, but there's a survival Aries quotient that's really that really needs to bring us into the present moment in a really, um, I guess, pressing way. I don't want to be alarmist, and I'm definitely not an environmental alarmist. I believe the Earth will take care of it herself, but as humans, I'm a little concerned about. And so if we can find some really innovative techniques and use the information that is available and out there, whether it be alternative energy, agriculture, economy, etc. I mean, not to mention what happened, with the phase relationship between Uranus and Neptune and the integration of science and spirituality there. I mean, story for another time, but I think my quarter just ran out. So discuss.
I appreciate all that. I think what I was going to respond, or what came up when you were talking, is about this idea, we're feeling into these crises and understanding the disturbing nature of it to us as humans, and the idea that again, going back to that, we all have the capacity to cause harm and also then forgive the victim, perpetrator, savior complex that comes along, but that sometimes these crises occur in order to push us forward. I mean, I think that's my philosophy of, anything that I've experienced that has been traumatic or disturbing. It's when I'm on the other side of it, then I have that choice, to move forward. How do I want to move forward? And I think as a collective, then we all have that as well. We're in the middle of the deep disturbing things, and maybe it'll even get worse before it gets better. But just echoing what you said, Ryan, is that we have the choice and that we get to choose how we move forward. And yeah.
Well, I've got a question since it went silent for a moment. I've got a question for all of you. Sometimes I'm half asleep right now. I just got back from a trip, and I guess I've got road fatigue. But sometimes that state of mind can be very fruitful, incredibly fruitful. Yeah. And I entertain it. So I have this really strong feeling that I want to toss out to all of you. And that is, I'm getting a really strong feeling that those of us that are living deliberately and wanting to change, like everyone has said, and focused on listening to Creator, we are starting to really recognize and feel the other more and more, as opposed to be so self-concerned. I'm feeling that in spades. And I think that the current crisis that we're in, politically and culturally and socially and worldwide, and with the wars and all of the exhaustion over all of the greed and corruption, I think that is something's being born. And I feel that we're being very, very, very consciously responsive to the other. I am my brother's keeper. The Maya, the Hopi, the Maya have a saying in Lakesh when they meet on a trail. It's 1,000 years old. Hello, I am another you. And that is just so much on my mind and in my heart right now, is that we are each other.
Yeah,
and that's the basis of Neptune. A lot of what Ryan's talking about, that's Venus. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, that we have that beautiful sextile and the trine, from that Neptune-Saturn conjunction to Uranus and Pluto. So that's really helping to guide us to new possibilities. I mean, we are in a position now where we're being guided to create a whole new world. And the possibilities are whatever we can make of them.
And I just want to say really quickly, the total lunar eclipse happening September 7th is taking place in Pisces. So it opens that up even more, that idea of our interconnectedness and compelling us to learn how to be empathic. I mean, it's very different than sympathetic. When you have empathy, you can actually feel someone else's experience as if it's your own. So it's a really good opportunity to get in touch with that part of ourselves.
Excellent point.
We need to take the world back from the sociopaths that don't have any.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good, Robin. All I can do is express what I'm feeling, and then I try to figure it out from there. But I'm feeling so much that I am you and you are me, and we need each other desperately. And I won't put up with this divisiveness and this uncaring. I won't stand for it.
Come together right now.
Exactly.
And that song came out in the 60s when Pluto Uranus was
yeah, and Lean on Me. I love that. I mean, that's just classic. It's you just might have a problem that I'd understand. We need each other, and we're finding that strength in each other in spite of the horrible corruption, like King George of, the Revolutionary War. We're finding that in spite of what's being imposed upon us, supposedly imposed upon us. No, we're fighting back. We're going to think for ourselves. Thank you very much. We're all Uranian types, and we love astrology, and we're going to, one of the first tenets of Taurus is survival. And, that's the inner Venus. The inner Venus wants just their self to survive. But the way we do that is reaching out to the other. And that's been the way it's of the world since, since beginning of time, is that the way we survive as a species is we have to band together and help each other. And I just see people coming together, and I see it in my travels, and I see it all over, and just, how can I help you, brother? More and more all the time.
Yeah,
And
I can't remember exactly, but I know that the next two eclipses, one of them very strongly aspected Mars, and the other one very strongly aspects Venus. And so those two eclipses are bringing together, the Mars and the Venus, the me and the you.
Yes, and Mars moves into Libra and Venus into Cancer soon.
Right.
I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
exact date. So, but Mars and Libra also, it's a chance for us to really be aware of how we're interacting with others and not imposing our desires, and I don't know, living from a self-focused perspective when relating to other people.
Right,
Because
because they'll become square.
yeah.
I have something I want to add to this, just and then I have to go. I have something to do with my kiddos, but when it comes to coming together and what we are seeing, like with all of the protests that are happening daily in every single state, and people are utilizing their voice. Um, and I want to validate what all of you guys are saying. And I do want to share this with you guys because it's fascinating. Okay, so we know when the American Civil War was happening, Uranus was in Gemini. All right, what I want you to look at is not just that, but then Cassandra is retrograde in Libra, and it is ruled by this Venus in Aries at 15 degrees. And Neptune is at 2957. Then I want you to look at this Neptune and Cassandra in this chart. Neptune retrogrades back to 2957 on October 23rd. And we have Venus now in Libra conjunct that Cassandra of the Civil War. And we have Cassandra, who is now conjunct that Venus in that chart. So what I want to say is Cassandra is all about recovering your voice and your inner relationship to self and your inner knowledge, especially when you see it pronounced in someone's natal chart. It's typically someone who has an extreme amount of PTSD stemming from not being believed, heard, or understood for a truth. And it's always a truth that they are speaking. And it's about the psychological toll that it takes on that person on a soul level, because they're trying to prevent crisis, or they're trying to teach about something or this or that. And it's like they just look delusional to everyone else, right? Um, and so karmically, they will eventually have to recover that inner knowledge and the ability to speak and to strengthen their inner relationship to self, meaning I don't need for people to hear, believe, see, or this. I am just going to plant a seed, and it can do whatever it wants. People can do whatever they want with it. That is like this lesson within Cassandra. The reason why I'm bringing this up is, and share those two charts, is because collectively we are recovering our relationship to each other and to self. Cassandra retrograde in Libra in the Civil War chart. Now we have Venus in October in Libra conjunct that. It's about the unity and diversity, especially with Uranus and Gemini and the Libran energies going on. It is collectively Cassandra and Aries having the courage to take back the voice, right? to be an authority and to do what is necessary as a collective and to not give that authority over because we're dealing with these, cardinal energies too during this time. So whatever was seeded back during the Civil War pertaining to this, right? The Civil War happened, people were speaking out, and it was Cassandra and Libra. Everyone is equal. Why is this da 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 da? Now we're seeing it roll back around, and what was planted then is now wanting to accelerate and to evolve further through a deepening that means coming together as a community to heal that relationship, that voice, and that knowledge. And so I wanted to leave it at that because I found it very, very interesting. And by the way, who was the first person who spoke out about the Civil War? Lincoln. And there's a lot of people who have the theory, I feel this to be true, Obama is connected to Lincoln through reincarnation. And guess what? Obama has Cassandra conjunct his Uranus and Leo conjunct the North Node. All right. And a Mercury in Leo. And that was a person, an authority back then who spoke out and had a purpose. And there's going to be more people who come out and speak out and have a purpose and a focus that brings people together collectively. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Wow.
That Jordyn.
All of you guys are all so brilliant. I love this. This has been a great panel.
Jordyn, that was wonderful. Just wonderful. I felt it. And I want to mention, some of you might have seen, I wanted to give a shout out to Ari Moshe because he just posted on Facebook it would have been July 28th, a story. I think you saw it, yeah, Jordyn, you commented about the protests in Israel by students and young people against the Israeli Defense Forces creating genocide in Gaza. And they are hell-bent to be heard, and they are very organized, and they are not giving up, and that's exactly what Jordyn was talking about. And I am waiting for someone in Israel to pass a loaf of bread over a barbed wire fence to a starving person. I know it's going to happen, and this is the beginning. We're witnessing just incredible breakthroughs with this, Neptune and Saturn and Aries, and the possibilities that we've all talked about for new quantum realities that we can co-create on our own, and it's happening with our young people. God bless them.
Yeah.
I gotta go, guys. And yes.
Bye, Jordyn. Thank
you so much,
you.
everyone.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, everyone. It was a great panel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. And perhaps next time we'll talk about the eclipses. I think
Yes.
that would be a good next step. And you guys, like I said, you guys are so brilliant. Thank you so much. I love listening to all of you express, the explanation of the planets.
Yes, and everyone's perspective.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, I
Sue and
appreciate
Robin,
getting to
you make
hear.
it happen.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Sue and Robin.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Next
All
time, guys.
right. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.